My name is Imogen Pafford. I'm 69 years old, and I spent 30 years as a licensed social worker outside Savannah, Georgia. I spent my career learning how to read relationship patterns, the ones that feel fine on the surface and quietly aren't. I helped a lot of women recognize those patterns and walk away from them. And then, at 64 years old, 2 years after my own divorce, I almost didn't walk away from one myself. I want to be honest with you about that. I saw the signs at month 2. I stayed until month 4. Because I was lonely, and he made me feel for a little while like the loneliness was over. I am a trained social worker who has spent 30 years identifying exactly this kind of dynamic, and loneliness still held me in place for 60 extra days. That is not a confession of weakness, that is information. Because if it can happen to me, it can happen to anyone. And the women in my life who weren't as lucky, and I have watched 3 of them go through this, didn't have the clinical vocabulary to name what was happening until the damage was done. I am not a financial advisor, and this is not legal advice. What I am is someone who has seen this pattern from both sides of the desk. Talk to a trusted advisor about your specific financial situation. But what I'm going to tell you today, this is pattern recognition, and pattern recognition can be learned. There is a sticky note on my bathroom mirror. It says, "Is he adding to your life or auditing it?" I put it there after the relationship that was almost more than a close call. I still look at it every morning. Now, before we get into the 5 things, I want to name something directly. Loneliness is not a character flaw. It is a human condition. After a divorce, after a death, after decades of being part of a pair and then suddenly not, loneliness is a reasonable response to a real loss. I am not here to shame you for wanting companionship. I want that for you. Most of the women watching this deserve someone wonderful. But loneliness is also the thing that certain men are counting on. And these 5 behaviors, every single one of them, comes from a good impulse. Generosity, warmth, care. What I'm going to show you today is how those good impulses, when they show up too early, get read as an invitation by the wrong kind of man. Let me start with the one that will make some of you say, "Imogen, that is just being hospitable." I know, that's exactly why it's on the list. Here is what offering to cook for a man in the first 2 or 3 dates communicates. Not to a good man, but to a man who is looking for a specific kind of arrangement. It signals, "I am a caretaker. I lead with service. My instinct when I care about someone is to feed them, to tend to them, to make their life more comfortable." That is a beautiful quality in a long-term partner. In a dating context with someone you've known for 3 weeks, it is a signal that reads, to the wrong man, as an audition for unpaid domestic labor. The women I've worked with who ended up in what I call caretaker traps, relationships where they were essentially providing housing, meals, and emotional support in exchange for male company, almost universally described offering to cook as one of their first moves. It felt natural, generous, like themselves. The reframe I want you to hold: hospitality is something you offer people who have earned a place in your life. A man you've known for 3 weeks has not earned a home-cooked meal. He has earned a restaurant. This does not mean you can never cook for someone you're dating. It means you let the relationship develop on neutral ground before you bring it into your home and your kitchen and your domestic life. Let him show you who he is before you show him what you can provide. The early dates should answer the question, is this person worth my time? Not, is this person comfortable in my home? Now we move from the social signals into the financial ones, and this is where the stakes change. Senior dating in 2026 is happening against a specific economic backdrop. Housing costs have made home ownership increasingly out of reach. Inflation has eroded savings. A significant number of men in the 65-plus dating pool are in genuine financial distress, and some of them are actively, intentionally looking for a solution that wears a human face. A paid-off house is, to a man in housing insecurity, the most attractive thing about a woman, more than her personality, more than her looks, more than how she makes him feel. I know that's hard to hear. I know it sounds cynical, but I have sat across from women who lost their homes, and this is what they told me happened. It started with a conversation in the first month of dating, where she mentioned she owned her home outright, or that she had a good pension, or that she had received an inheritance. The man's interest noticeably increased after that conversation. She thought it was coincidence. Here is your rule, and I want you to write this down. No financial disclosure in the first 60 days. Not your home ownership status, not whether you have a pension, not your general financial comfort level, not your children's inheritance situation. None of it. This is not dishonesty. You are not required to disclose your net worth to someone who has known you for 3 weeks. Financial information is private. It is personal. It is something you share with someone who has demonstrated, over time, that they can be trusted with it. If a man asks about your financial situation early, where you live, whether you own or rent, what your retirement situation looks like, that is not curiosity. That is reconnaissance. A man who is genuinely interested in you as a person does not need your financial profile in the first 60 days. Protect that information the way you would protect your social security number, because in the wrong hands it functions the same way. Here is the one that tends to creep up gradually, which is what makes it the most insidious of the 5. It doesn't start as cancelling your life. It starts as rescheduling your Tuesday lunch because he's free Tuesday and you want to see him. It starts as skipping your Thursday book club once because he had a hard day and needed company. It starts as small, reasonable accommodations that any caring person would make. And then 3 months in, you realize your standing lunch has been rescheduled so many times that the friends stopped asking. Your book club assumed you'd dropped out. Your daughter's weekly call has been pushed to whenever, and his schedule has become the organizing principle of your week. This matters for 2 reasons. The first is practical. Your social network is your early warning system. The friends who knew you before him are the ones who will say, something seems off when something seems off. They are the ones who will remember what you were like before and notice the difference. When you lose them, gradually, reasonably, one rescheduled lunch at a time, you lose the people most likely to help you see clearly. The second reason is what the pattern communicates to him. Consistent availability signals that your life bends around him, that his comfort, his schedule, his needs have priority. That is, again, a beautiful quality in a long-term committed relationship. In a relationship that is 4 months old, it communicates that you will reorganize your life to keep him, And a man who is looking for a dependent situation will recognize that signal and use it. Your standing commitments are non-negotiable, not because you're playing games, because they are your life. They exist before he arrived, and they will exist after he is gone. And they represent the relationships that have actually earned their place in your world. When you maintain them, when you say, "I have plans with my friend on Thursday, I can see you Friday," you are not playing hard to get. You are showing him who you are. A man worth having will respect that. A man who pushes back on it is showing you something important. Believe him. Write this down. Before the third date, look him up. His full name, the city he says he lives in, a reverse phone number search, your state's court records, most are searchable online for free. His name plus the words bankruptcy or eviction or lawsuit. I say this not because every man you meet is dangerous. I say this because a background search is standard due diligence, the same diligence you would apply to a contractor you were hiring to work on your home. You would check references. You would look at reviews. A man who is asking for access to your time, your emotions, and eventually your domestic life deserves at least the same level of scrutiny as a plumber. What you are looking for. Prior marriages he hasn't mentioned, especially recent ones. Bankruptcy filings, eviction records, criminal history, restraining orders. These are not rare findings. These are things that a man who has a history of financial dependency or relationship-based exploitation will simply not volunteer. Beyond the search. Pay attention to how he talks about money. Does he have a clear picture of his own finances? Does he mention debt, housing instability, or financial stress early on, in a way that invites your sympathy? Does he have vague answers about where he lives or his living situation? A man who is financially stable and self-sufficient will have no problem with financial transparency as a relationship develops. He will be able to tell you where he lives, whether he rents or owns, and what his general situation is. Not because you're interrogating him, but because it comes up naturally between two adults building something real. A man who deflects, who keeps his living situation vague, who mentions financial pressure in ways designed to generate sympathy, that is information. Receive it. This next one is the one I need you to sit with, because it is the one that costs women the most, financially and emotionally, and it is the one that feels most like kindness when you're doing it. A woman I know, a genuinely kind, intelligent woman, lost $42,000 over 14 months, not in a dramatic moment, in small ones. His car repair, because he was between paychecks, his electric bill, just this once, a month's rent while he sorted out a misunderstanding with his landlord, a loan that was absolutely going to be repaid as soon as things stabilized. Things never stabilized. The relationship ended. The money was gone. Here is what I want you to understand about the psychology of this pattern. It never begins with a large ask. It begins with something that is genuinely, almost impossibly, reasonable. A small amount, a short-term bridge, something any good person would do for someone they cared about. The first financial request is a test, often not a conscious one, but a test nonetheless. It tests whether you will prioritize his comfort over your financial boundaries. If you pass the test by saying yes, the next request comes, a little larger, a little sooner, built on the goodwill of the last yes. By the time the amounts become alarming, the emotional investment is deep enough that the financial boundary feels like a withdrawal of love. That is not an accident. Your rule, and I want you to say this to yourself until it is simply true. I do not lend money to men I am dating. Not in the first year. Not in the first 2 years. Not without a formal, written, legally reviewed agreement. Helping out is not a financial category. It is a pathway. If a man's life requires your financial participation to function, his life is not ready for a relationship. A partner is someone who brings his own stability to the table. If he cannot do that, he is not a partner. He is a dependent. And you did not rebuild your life after loss or divorce or decades of work to become someone's financial solution. Here is what I want you to walk away with. Not fear, not suspicion. A clear picture of what you will and will not accept, held in advance before the loneliness makes it harder to see clearly. The sticky note on my mirror asks one question. Is he adding to your life or auditing it? A man who adds to your life makes you feel more like yourself, more capable, more connected to the people and things you love. A man who is auditing your life, cataloguing your assets, testing your boundaries, noting what you'll give and how quickly, will make you feel in the early days like he sees you. What he's seeing is your inventory. Here is your protection list. All 5. 1. Let a relationship develop on neutral ground before you bring it into your home and your kitchen. Hospitality is earned, not offered at introduction. 2. 60 days minimum before any financial disclosure. Your home ownership, your pension, your savings, that is private information. Protect it accordingly. 3. Your standing commitments do not bend for a new relationship. They are your life. A good man will respect that. 4. Look him up before date 3. Court records, reverse phone search, basic due diligence. This is not paranoia. This is adulthood. 5. You do not lend money to men you are dating. Not helping out. Not a bridge loan. Not just this once. Not without a formal written agreement. Financial requests in the first year are a pattern, not an emergency. Have one person in your life, a friend, an adult child, someone who loves you, who knows who you're dating, and has your permission to say, I have concerns, without it becoming a fight. That person is your second set of eyes when yours are clouded by something that feels like hope. I am not telling you not to date. I am telling you to date like a woman who knows her own worth. Those are not the same thing as being closed off or suspicious. They are the same thing as being ready. If this found you at the right moment, share it with a woman who needs to hear it. And subscribe. I have more of these every week.